Shalom everybody and Chag Hanukkah Sameach. Welcome here for the first night of Hanukkah. My name is Rabbi Shapira. Together with the Rebbetzin and Noach, we're inviting you every night to be here with us for a very special celebration of Hanukkah. As you hear in the background, Maoz Tzur, and we remember about the rock of our salvation. And this year we prepare for you a very special program called the Maoz Tzur, the rock of our ages, the rock of our salvation. This rock name is Yeshua. And every night you're going to learn Halakha, and every night you are also going to take with you the Hanukkiah, and we'll talk about the Light of Mashiach from the new publication, Hanukkah and the Light of Mashiach. And every night the Rebbetzin is going to narrate for us the book of Maccabees. Now, as you know, the Hanukkiah have 8 candles. So every night we recite a different name of the Messiah. And it's important that you do it in your home. One name of the Messiah, the first night, is going to be the name of Pele. Pele means miracle. The first night is this name Pele. Pele is a miraculous God. And we're praying today in this first night of Hanukkah for many miracles to come to your life, upon your family, upon your household. Those who need the miracle tonight, Lord, we are asking the first night of Hanukkah, if it is with their health, if it is with relationship, here if it is with financial provision, that you bring the miracles, Lord, for your people. In the name of the Pele. His name is Yeshua. Today is the very first night of Hanukkah, and we hope you are excited. Now, before we light the Hanukkiah, it said that faith comes by hearing. And we are going to hear today the book of the Maccabees. Thank you, Rebbetzin. Thank you so much, Rebbetzin, for the beautiful playing and for reading it for us, the book of Maccabees. I'll be back immediately after that with Noach for the lighting of the first night of Hanukkah. We're going to learn the Var Halacha. We're going to have an amazing time here every night. God bless you. Get your Hanukkiah ready. And if you don't have one, well, welcome to the Shapira household. We're sure happy to have you here. Let's go right now to the Rebbetzin. God bless you. And shalom.
First book of Maccabees, chapter 1. And it came to pass, after the triumph of Alexandros the Macedonian, son of Philippos, who reigned in Hellas, who came out of the land of Kittaim, had defeated Darius, king of the Persians and the Medes. And he fought a lot of battles and took almost all the strongholds and slew almost all the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he exalted, and his heart was lifted up. And he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries and nations and kings, who became tributaries unto him. And after these things he fell sick, and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them, while he was yet alive. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. And his servants bare rule, every one in his place. And after his death they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been an hostage at Rome. And he reigned in the 137 year of the kingdom of the Greeks. And in those days there went out Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, "Let us go out and make covenant with the heathen that are round about us, for since we departed from them, we have much sorrow." So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forward, Haran, that they went to the king, who gave them a license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were told to do mischief. Now, when the kingdom was established for Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt, that he might have the dominion of 2 realms. Wherefore he entered unto Egypt with a great multitude, with chariots and elephants and horsemen and a great navy, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. But Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death. Thus they got the strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. And after that Antiochus had smitten Egypt, he returned against in the 143rd year, and went up against Israel, Jerusalem, with a great multitude, and entered proudly into the sanctuary, and took away the golden altar, and the candlestick of light, and all the vessels thereof, and the table of the shewbread, and the pouring vessels, the vials, and the censers of gold, and the veil, and the crown, and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, which he pulled off. He also took the silver and the gold, and the precious vessels. He also took the hidden treasures, which he found. And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre, and spoken very proudly. Therefore there was great mourning in Israel, in every place where they were, so that the princes and elders mourned. The virgins and young men were made feeble, and the beauty of women was changed. Every bridegroom took up lamentation, and she sat in the marriage chamber, was heavy. And the land also was moved for the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered with confusion. And after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute unto the cities of Judah, who came in unto Jerusalem with a great multitude, and spake peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit. For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city, and smote it very sore, and destroyed much of the people of Israel. And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire, and pulled down the houses and walls thereof on every side. But the women and children took they captive, and possessed the cattle. Then builded they the city of David with a great and strong wall, and with mighty towers, and made it stronghold for them. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein. They stored it also with armor and victuals. And when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there. And so they became a sort of snare, for it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary, and evil adversary to Israel. Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary, and defiled it, insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them. Whereupon the city was made a habitation of strangers, and became strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her. Her sanctuary was laid like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning, her Sabbaths into reproach, her honor into contempt. As had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and everyone should leave his laws, so that all heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yet so many of the Israelites consented to this religion, and sacrificed unto idols, and profaned the Sabbath. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, that they should profane the Sabbaths and the festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts. That they should also leave their children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation, to the end that they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. And whoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die. In the selfsame manner wrote he to his whole kingdom, and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice, city by city. Then many of the people were gathered unto them, to wit, every one that forsook the law. And so they committed evils in the land, and drove the Israelites into secret places, even whosoever they could flee for succor. Now, the 15th day of the month, Caslu, in the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar, and built all idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side, and burnt incense at the doors of their houses and in the streets. And when they had rent in pieces the books of the law that they had found, they burnt them with fire. And whosoever was found with any book of the testament, or of any committed to the law, the king's commandment was that they would be put to death. Thus did they by their authority unto the Israelites every month, to as many as were found in the cities. Now the 25th day of the month did they sacrifice upon the idol altar, which was the altar of God. At which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised. And they hanged the infants about their necks, and rifled their houses, and slew them that had uncircumcised them. Howbeit many in Israel were fully resolved, and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing. Wherefore the rather to die, that they may not be defiled with meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant. So then they died, and there was very great wrath upon Israel.
מי ימלא גבורות ישראל אותן, מי ימנה, אין בכל דור יקום הגיבור גואל העם. מי ימלא גבורות ישראל אותן, מי ימנה, אין בכל דור יקום הגיבור גואל העם. שמע בימים ההם הזמן הזה, Maccabees Moshiach ופודה, ובימינו כל עם ישראל יתאחד יקום להיגאל. Who can tell the things that befell us? Who can count them? In every age a hero or sage came to our aid. Who can retell the things that befell us? Who can count them? In every age a hero or sage came to our age. Listen, Shema. At this time of years and days of yore, Maccabees the temple did restore. And today our people, as we dreamed, will arise, unite, and be redeemed. Mi yimlel geburat Yisrael otan, mi yimne, en bechol yakum magibur goel ha'am. Who can retell the things that befell us? Who can count them? In every age a hero or sage came to our aid.
Chapter 2. In those days arose Matthias, the son of Yohanan, the son of Simeon, a priest of the sons of Jorib, from Jerusalem, and dwelt in Modain. And he had 5 sons, Yohanan called Kaddis, Simon called Dasai, Judas, who was called Maccabees, Eliezer called Avaran, and Jonathan, whose surname was Aphas. And when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah and Jerusalem, he said, "Woe is me! Wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people and of the holy city, and to dwell there, when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hand of strangers? Her temple has become a man without glory. Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the streets, her young men with the sword of the enemy. What nation hath not had a part in her kingdom, and gotten of her spoils? All her ornaments are taken away. A free woman, she has become a bondslave. And behold, our sanctuary, even our beautiful and our glory, is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it. To what end, therefore, shall we live any longer?" Then Mattathias and his sons rent their clothes and put on sackcloth and mourned very sore. In the meanwhile, the king's officers, such as compelled the people to revolt, came into the city of Modi'in to make them sacrifice. And when many of Israel came unto them, Mattathias also and his sons came together. Then answered the king's officers and said to Mattathias on this wise, "Thou art a ruler and an honorable and great man in the city, and strengthened with sons and brethren. Now therefore come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done, yea, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem. So shalt thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends, and thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards." Then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice, "Though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him and fall away every one from the religion of their fathers and give consent to his commandments, yet I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. God forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinances. We will not hearken to the king's words, to go from our religion either on the right hand or the left." Now, when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice on the altar, which was at Modi'in, according to the king's commandment. Which thing when Mattathias saw, he was inflamed with zeal, and his reins trembled, neither could he forbear to show his anger according to judgment. Wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar. Also the king's commissioner, who compelled men to sacrifice, he killed one at a time, and the altar he pulled down. Thus dealt he zealously for the law of God, like as Phinehas did unto Zambri, the son of Salom. And Mattathias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, "Whoever is zealous of the law and maintaineth the covenant, let him follow me." So he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that they ever had in the city. Then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there, both they and their children, and their wives, and their cattle, because afflictions increased sore upon them. Now it was told the king's servants and the host that was at Jerusalem in the city of David, that certain men who had broken the king's commandment were gone down into the secret places in the wilderness. They pursued them after a great number, and having overtaken them, they camped against them and made war against them on the Sabbath day. And they said unto them, "Let that which ye have done hitherto suffice. Come forth and do according to the commandment of the king, and ye shall live." But they said, "We will not come forth, neither will we do the king's commandment to profane the Sabbath day." So then they gave them the battle with all speed. Howbeit they answered them not, neither cast they a stone at them, nor stopped the places where they lay hid, but said, "Let us die in all our innocency. Heaven and earth will testify for us that you put us to death wrongfully." So they rose up against them in battle on the Sabbath, and they slew them and their wives and their children and their cattle. to the number of 1,000 people. Now, when Matthias and his friends understood hereof, they mourned for them right sore. And one of them said to another, if we do all as our brethren have done, and fight not for our lives and laws against the heathen, they will now quickly root us out of the earth. At that time before the decree, saying, whosoever shall come to make battle with us on the Sabbath day, we will fight against him. Neither will we die all as our brethren that were murdered in the secret places. Then came there unto him a company of Assyrians, who were mighty men of Israel, even all such as were voluntarily devoted unto the law. Also all that they fled for persecution joined themselves unto them, and were a stay unto them. So they joined their forces, and smote sinful men in their anger, and wicked men in their wrath. But the rest fled to the heathen for succor. Then Matthias and his friends went round about, and pulled down the altars, and what children soever they found within the coast of Israel uncircumcised, they circumcised them valiantly. They pursued also after the proud men, and the work prospered in their hand. So they recovered the law out of the hand of the Gentiles, and out of the hand of the kings. Neither suffered they the sinner to triumph. Now when the time drew near that Matthias should die, he said unto his sons, now hath pride and rebuke gotten strength, and the time of destruction and the wrath of indignation. Now therefore, my sons, be ye zealous for the law, and give your lives for the covenant of your fathers. Call to remembrance what acts our fathers did in their time. So shall ye receive great honor and an everlasting name. Was not Abraham found faithful in temptation? And was it imputed unto him for righteousness? Joseph in the time of his distress kept the commandment, and was made Lord of Egypt. Phinehas our father, in being zealous and fervent, obtained the covenant of an everlasting priesthood. Joshua, for fulfilling the word, was made a judge in Israel. Caleb, for bearing witness before the congregation, received the heritage of the land. David, for being merciful, possessed the throne of an everlasting kingdom. Elias, for being zealous and fervent, for the law was taken up into heaven. Ananias, Azarias, and Misael, by believing they were saved out of the flame. David, for his innocency, was delivered out of the mouth of lions. And thus consider ye throughout all ages that none that put their trust in him shall be overcome. Fear not then the words of a sinful man, for his glory shall be dung and worms, till the day he be lifted up, and tomorrow he shall not be found, because he is returned into his dust, and his thought is come to nothing. Wherefore ye, my sons, be valiant, and show yourselves men in the behalf of the law, for by it shall you obtain glory. And behold, I know that your brother Simon is a man of counsel. Give ear unto him always, he shall be a father unto you. As for Judas Maccabees, he hath been mighty and strong, even from his youth up. Let him be your captain, and fight the battle of the people. Take also unto you all those who observe the law, and avenge ye the wrong of your people. Recompense fully the heathen, and take heed to the commandments of the law. So he blessed them, and was gathered to his fathers. And he died in the 146th year, and his sons buried him in the sepulchres of his fathers at Modi'in. And all Israel made great lamentation from him.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של חנוכה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בימים ההם בזמן הזה ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. הנרות הללו שאנו מדליקים, הנרות הללו שאנו מדליקים, על הניסים ועל הנפלאות ועל התשועות ועל המלחמות שעשית לאבותינו, שעשית לאבותינו בימים ההם בזמן הזה, בימים ההם בזמן הזה.
Maoz Yeshuati Rabbi Shapira Tikon Beit Tefilati V'shan Totan Nizabea Le'etachin Matbea Mitzar Hamnavea Azek Mor Beshir Mizmor Hanukkiah Amizbeach Azek Mor Beshir Mizmor Hanukkiah Amizbeach. Rock of ages, let our song praise your saving power. You amid the raging foes were our sheltering tower. Furious they assailed us, but your arm availed us, and your wood broke their sword when our own strength failed us, and your wood broke their swords when our own strength failed us.
Shalom and welcome to the Halacha Yomit from Hanukkah and the Light of Mashiach. Hope you had a chance to pick up this new publication and read through it and think about those things. First Halacha that I would like to teach from your Aleph is significant. It's important for us to think about. It's around Kavanah. I wrote, quoting Rabbi Kook in Hanukkah and the Light of Mashiach, the following. It is necessary for every human being to know and to understand that within himself there is a candle, and his candle is unlike the candle of his friends. It is unique. There is no person that does not possesses a candle. I'll stop there, and I would like to speak about the first halacha for the first day for Hanukkah. The neshama, or the light within us, resemble a candle. Part of Hanukkah has to do with the way we view others around us and how we view those who even oppose us. When we light the Hanukkah candles, we have to think about the kavanah
beyond the lighting of the candles. If the Hanukkiah represent the entire house of Israel, that means that each one of the candles represent each and every one of us, or the community, or the house of Israel as a whole. The shamash is each and every one of us. We have a responsibility of lighting those around us. That means that as we light the Hanukkiah, we have to have the kavanah of Ayin Tova, a good eye. Lashon Tova, not Lashon Hara, no gossip or slander, but a good tongue. And when we view people around us, that perhaps they're iffy, we have to look at them through the eye of merit. This is an important part of the halakha. So as we light the Hanukkiah, and we light the first candle of the Pele, we have to think about the fact that in each and every one of us, even in your enemies, there are goodness, and we have to view the goodness in people and not the bad in people. That is the halakha of the day for Hanukkah.
Chag Hanukkah Sameach. My name is Rabbi Shapira. We are the Al Anisim band. It is the first night of Hanukkah, and I am seriously pumped up. I think it is appropriate to start with the Shechianu.
Oh, yes.
It's the first night of Hanukkah.
Hanukkah, miracles upon us.
More miracles upon everybody here. Whether it's in the health or relationships or finances or job or anything, miracles in everyone's lives. In the name of Yeshua, Amen ve'Amen. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech haolam Shechianu Vekiyamanu Re'iyah Lazman Hazeh Baruch Ata Adonai Light of Mashiach, בכל יום שיבוא אני מאמין באהבתי שיתממח עם כל זה אחכה לו בכל יום שיבוא אני מאמין באמונה שלמה בביאת המשיח אני מאמין באמונה שלמה בביאת המשיח אני מאמין ואף על פי שיתממח עם כל זה אחכה לו בכל יום שיבוא אני מאמין ואף על פי שיתממח עם כל זה אחכה לו בכל יום שיבוא first night of Hanukkah. We have 7 more crazy nights of fun, worship, and more. Chag Hanukkah Sameach, everyone.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We're going to send you an early Chag Sameach because we have a special treat today. My name is Messianic Rabbi, and I got a very special guest in the building, Dr. Rabbi Yitzhak Shapira. Rabbi Shapira, welcome to the stream.
Chag Sameach, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Chag Sameach to you. A little sunny over there, but hopefully the sun will move for you in just a bit. We're happy to have you on. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much, and I want to wish everybody watching, if you are in the United States, so Hanukkah is around the corner, and if not, if you started Hanukkah, well, we have 8 days of talking about exciting things in Hanukkah. It's such an amazing festival for us to celebrate together.
Absolutely. I think it's my kid's favorite holiday. It's my favorite holiday as well. My wife's favorite holiday to celebrate. We're celebrating Hanukkah today at our synagogue as well, at our congregation. We'll be having a Hanukkah pajama party. We'll be lighting the Hanukkiahs. We'll be doing the blessings. We'll watch some Hanukkah videos and have a great time. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Before we start, I did want to share something. So, Rabbi Shapira, when did you start writing The Return of the Kosher Pig?
Wow, that's an interesting thing. You know, so when I started to, I used the term wrestle with Yeshua. It was a difficult pill, a very difficult pill for me. So I had really no intention of writing a book. Mm-hmm. What I did have the intention of doing is really to understand what Jewish people think, what Judaism think about this topic of the divinity, because that was obviously an important topic to discuss, and as a Jew, it's kind of a no-no, you know, the idea of the divinity. So I started that one in originally the first time at 1998, and then in 2001 I really dug into the topic and started my own diary. And in 2013, the diary was complete, and I finally released it. I was sitting on most of the material of The Return of the Kosher Pig. Actually, not just The Return of the Kosher Pig, 2 other books. It was supposedly 3 books. Yeah. I never released number 2 and number 3 to the public after the Kosher Pig because I don't know why not. Actually, maybe I should get back to it and do it. But you're talking from 98. Maybe I should, but from 98 and 2013 was the journey of 15 years. Mm-hmm. And then I released it, and then I released it countless other languages. So it's definitely been a journey. So
in 1998, I was in 8th grade, just so you know that. This is my copy of The Return of the Kosher Pig, which is super beat up. And I don't know if you remember this, but when I went to Messiah Conference, long before I received smicha from Rabbi Mark Shulman, you did sign my copy, right?
Let me read. Wow.
Right?
Wow. I read it. That's my red hand.
This is your handwriting. So as you can see, my copy of The Return of the Kosher Pig has gone through it. So I do highly recommend. What's that?
That's impressive. That's impressive.
So I do highly recommend The Return of the Kosher Pig. Of course, within Judaism, we don't agree on every single thing. But brothers and sisters, you know, my channel is geared towards answering the anti-missionaries, providing a healthy apologetic to the traditional Jewish world for the messiahship of Yeshua of Nazareth. And Rabbi Shapira's work, along with, like I said, Dr. Brown's other work, these things are vital. You cannot, in a meaningful manner, engage in Messianic Jewish apologetics without reading the works of Rabbi Shapira, Dr. Michael Brown, and these others who have been giants of the faith. So I just want to say I thank you for the work that you've done, Rabbi Shapira.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And again, everything is messianic, and it's a wonderful thing that you are discussing those topics, because I would like to say one thing for everybody to consider. It says in the end of Deuteronomy, "Velo kam navi b'Israel kemoshe," and this is important. Never arisen in Israel a prophet as Moses. Even Torah, even when we talk about 5 books of Moses, at the end of the day, we're talking about prophecy, and everybody needs to. We talk about Moses, giver the law. No, even Moses. Actually, I would say that the greatest book of prophecy is the Torah by itself, the Torah itself is prophecy. So putting this lens on and looking for the essence, it says Sanhedrin 97 says all the words of the prophets prophesies for the day of the coming of the Mashiach.
Amen.
Yeah, exactly. So we have to look at that, and it's a wonderful thing. We're in Hanukkah, and people say, "Well, what Hanukkah have to do with Mashiach?" Oh my goodness, so much. So
absolutely.
It's really exciting.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know about Rabbi Shapira's channel, Ahavat Ammi, he has Yeshivat Shuvu. I mean, go check out his content. 20,000 subscribers. That means that people do like his content. And he has the Shachri prayers for Yom Aleph, many other places. So if you're watching, go subscribe to him. If you're new here and you came to hear Rabbi Shapira speak, definitely subscribe to my channel. Hang out with us, and let's dig into your new book, Rabbi Shapira. All right. I know you're from the land of Israel, Sephardic Jew, raised up in it, came to the faith. Your testimony is all over the place. We thank the Lord for what you've done. But I think there's something amazing that we're stepping into in this Hanukkah season, which is your new book, Hanukkah and the Light of the Mashiach. We've got the picture up there. Please tell us about this book.
So I will tell you where my dream has started. If I can step back for a second,
Absolutely.
not just about Hanukkah and the Light of Mashiach, but just speaking in general. When I came to faith, one of the amazing things that happened to me, and that's happened actually recently, that's happened in 2014. Here I am in Israel, I'm sitting inside the synagogue, it's Yom Kippur, and I know that Yeshua is the Messiah, but I hold the Siddur in my hand like this. And I remember I holding the Siddur in my hand, it's Yom Kippur, we go through the Musaf, and I said to myself, the people are crying to God. And it's such a holy atmosphere, and such, you can sense, and I know some people will not really agree with that, but I can tell you, at least for me, I was in the synagogue and people are weeping in this Yom Kippurim, and I said, Yeshua have to be there. And then the Chazan stand up and he says, we're turning now the page. So I started to pray. I said, please reveal to me Yeshua inside the prayer book right now, at this moment. God, if he is the Messiah, he's surely here with these people who love him so much. They don't know him yet, but they love God. So please show it to me. So we turn the page. It's amazing. It's the Siddur. I have it behind me in this giant library. It's the standard Sephardic Machzor for Yom Kippur. and we turn to the Ashamnu of the Musaf. And those who don't know the Hashamnu, it's one of the main prayers of Yom Kippurim. You're going through an acrostic from Aleph to Tav of every manageable sin that you might have. And we get to the letter Gimel, which is the Gazalnu, meaning in Hebrew, we have robbed. We have robbed. So we're praying for the robbery. And who did we rob according to the prayer? We robbed King Messiah. And here was the shock. In this prayer, we quote in the Musaf, in the Machzor by Ovadia Yosef, we quote Isaiah 53. Amen. We just, I don't understand. You have people like Tuvia Sinker tell us he's speaking about Israel, which in part is right. He did speaking about Israel, but to say he's not speaking about Messiah, he's basically saying, I don't know what Judaism teach. You're either a liar or you are ignorant. I don't know which one you choose. It's one or the other, So that started something in my heart, very, very deep. And I said, look, where is Yeshua in the prayers, right? And I'm going to get to the Hanukkah and the Light of Mashiach in a second. So I took upon myself this project called Ahavat Olam Siddur from 2013 to 2018, which is the Shabbat Shacharit service traditional. But what I have done in this, I wrote a full commentary to show where even in the Brit HaChadasha, we have a reference to the Kaddish, we have a reference to the Baruch Hu, we have the Shema, we have to the Amidah, and to connect the two. Because at the end of the day, Shacharit, Shabbat is Messianic. It's a Messianic service at the end of the day. So then the heart desire kind of expanded, and I started to ask myself the question, well, let's look a little bit deeper. let's look at Pesach, okay? Pesach. How many messianic symbolism there is to Messiah, son of David,
Many.
and Messiah, son of David? Many. So then I wrote this full rabbinic commentary on Kol Simanei Mashiach. Then I did the same thing with Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah, which Sfaradim, I know Ashkenazim don't do it, but Sfaradim and now all of Israel do what's called Rosh Hashanah Seder, which again, very messianic. And the idea is, for me, and again, people should understand, my background is, when I accepted Yeshua, I said to myself, I am not going to run away from Judaism. I'm not going to do it. I am going to show that he is the Messiah from within Judaism. And it's interesting because, we are in Hanukkah right now. We're still in the Hanukkah. Now, in Hanukkah, there is a halacha, which is very interesting. It's actually halacha. The halacha says that in Hanukkah, you are not allowed to play cards. You're not allowed to play any kind of cards game. No poker, no blackjack, non-cards game. And the question is why? You see, the word in Hebrew for cards is the word klafim. That's the word. Now, if you listen carefully to the word klafim, you hear inside the word klafim, kuf, lamed, pei, yod, mem. It's the same word as the word for klipa. Klipa is a husk, is something that is hiding, something that is hidden, is something that is concealed, is being hidden by some sort of husk. Okay, so the idea behind this.
Would you say it's like a shell, the klipa?
It's a shell.
Like
Klipa is a shell. A klipa, in the most simple definition, is a shell. And the entire thing is with Hanukkah is that there is a light that is concealed, that it is to be discovered. This is what Hanukkah is, the mitzvah of Hanukkah, to light and illuminate a light that is concealed. Or a ganuz, it's called, which happened to be the light of Mashiach. So to make the long story short for your viewers, Yeshua is found in the Shabbat, he's found in the Pesach, he found in the Rosh Hashanah, he found in the Yom Kippur, and he also found in Hanukkah. So this new book, Hanukkah and the Light of Mashiach, I had that my heart is to show to not just Jews, but also to Gentiles, how much messianic the story of Hanukkah is and how much we can learn. So I've done something that I'd never imagined that I have done. You can see from the title, Halachot Midrashim for the time of Geula. What I have done is I've taken in 18 chapters, halacha, which is halachic understanding how to observe. Let's call it the know-how. A minhag, which is a tradition for Hanukkah, and a midrash, which is a midrashic, a homiletic understanding of the Messiah in the context of Hanukkah. And then in the end of the book, I wanted to do something very special for everybody, to strengthen everybody's faith, because Hanukkah to me is the most messianic festival. Which, think about it for a second, Rabbi Eduardo, because it's not in the Bible per se. Yet Maimonides come and tell us. He says in Halachot Chanukah, he says it's called mitzvah chaviva. It's the most beloved mitzvah, Hanukkah. There is a connection between the coming of the Messiah to Hanukkah. So we want to tie those two together. So I put a section in the end of the book called Orosh Shel Mashiach, the Light of Mashiach. Yeshua made this statement, and this is something, again, I don't want to get to the debate with the anti-missionaries. This is not the time to do it. But I heard something that said by Tuvia Singer that really bothered me, okay? And again, I don't want to talk about a personal, this is not a person, this is strictly on the level of discussion. He made a statement in one of his videos that Yeshua never claimed to be the Messiah. Now, let's put ourselves on a thinking cap for a moment of first century Judaism, okay? Here we are in first century Judaism. Yeshua made a statement like, Ani oro shel olam. I am the light of the world, for example. By this type of statement, he is declaring himself to be the Messiah. Because one of the names of the Messiah in the first century, Aramaic, is the word Neorah, the light. It's one of his names. So I felt very passionate about this. So I added this section at the end of the book with 36 midrashim, and I must give a big thank you to Mr. Eldad Kenan, a real scholar from the Galilee, who worked with me side by side. He's a Jewish Israeli historian on translating some of those midrashim for the first time to show not just the connection between Hanukkah and Mashiach, between the idea of the light being the light. Yeshua absolutely declared himself to be the Messiah, and he has done that in variety of ways. So again,
Rabbi Shapira, let me jump in really quick. What I think is really interesting, when you get to the appendix section, this is not just for Hanukkah, right? If you can get this book, and you will use this book, the appendix section, all year in your apologetic, right? Because Yeshua being the light, the Neorah, this goes way back into the Midrashim, that this is an idea that is rarely brought up. And this is something that you can speak to people about, traditional anti-missionaries, traditional Jewish people, your Jewish friends, that Messiah is embedded deeply within the writings of the sages, that we can see correlations between the Brit Chadashah and what the sages have written.
And more than that, just as a one more point to add to what you're saying, which is 100% correct, some of this terminology, I am the light of the world, Neorah, it's predating the New Testament. There's a certain set of literature that calls Safrut HaEchalot that is dating back before first century, and we're seeing the same references for Mashiach being the light of the world. And everybody needs to understand, Yeshua did not grow up in a vacuum. He didn't raise up in a vacuum. He raised up in environment, a Jewish environment. He knew those midrashim. They knew he was in the Bet Midrash. So all of this is playing together really, really well. Now, for us, I believe the reason I'm so passionate about Hanukkah and Light of Mashiach, I'll tell you why. Because this mitzvah of Hadlaka, the entire thing, I know we all like to eat the latkes and do pajama parties and sufganiyot and all of this thing. But if we get to the core of what Hanukkah is, lahadlik ner shel Hanukkah, is to kindle this light. Everybody have to ask themselves the question, what are we kindling and how it is related to the Messiah? Even if there is a connection, is there a connection? And the answer is yes. Yes, and I spoke about this a lot, about this connection, and maybe today we'll be able to give a little bit to your viewers, just a taste of it. And my heart is not just to jump to the Midrash, but when you stand and you light the Hanukkiah, understand what you are lighting. You are igniting Mashiach, son of Yosef, and you are also inviting Messiah, son of David, to come and join Messiah, son of Joseph, which is very interesting, a way to think about this. We are partakers in the Geulah.
Rabbi Shapira, there are many people who say the rabbis are wrong just because they're rabbis, and that is utterly anti-Semitic. We need to, if Paul in Acts 17, Rav Shaul, if he can go and use the writings of pagan poets to declare the reality of the God of Israel, how much more so would the love of Hashem, the love of the God of Israel, permeate the history and heritage of the Jewish people with nuggets of reality that point to his Mashiach, right? That within the text and the writings of traditional Jew, he's going to embed it, not for just the sake of anything or because he doesn't have anything better to do, for the sake of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He's embedded within the heritage and the history of the house of Israel, truths that point to the Mashiach for redemption so the whole house of Israel can be saved.
You're right, but we have to even to take it a step further. Think about Hanukkah for a second. What was this battle all about? What did the Greek at the end of the day wanted to do?
Simulation.
They wanted to uproot the tradition of Israel. They wanted to uproot. That's why they went after the children. One of the very first thing that they abolished is circumcision. They abolished circumcision so that there will be no identity. So people look at, 250 years, 300 years afterward, almost 400 years afterward, actually, to be accurate. Judah the Nasi sit down and he start to put together this thing that is called the Mishnah and put it in one volume. Why? Everybody have to ask themselves the question, why? Why would somebody do that? Because he wanted to replace the Torah. Does anybody believe that any Jew, a devout Jew, would want to replace the Torah? The answer is, of course not. Because the Holocaust, or should you say near Holocaust that happened in the Greek Empire, they wanted to have something that can be passed down in case another empire has come to play. So for that reason, they put together the Mishnah. The Mishnah is, all the stuff in the Mishnah was already practiced long before, was already passed before that. That's why we read in the Mishnah about Hillel and Shammai. Well, Hillel and Shammai is before the generation of Yeshua already. So we know that this has been in place. So when we talk about those rabbis, there's this notion, especially among Messianic, some of the rabbis got together and they put together this volume just to discredit Yeshua. No. This is not the purpose of the oral Torah. The oral Torah was preserved. So one day, Rabbi Eduardo, I will be able to be here in your program and talk about all the things that pointing to the Messiah in the Hanukkah, and that we will remember it and we will never forget. So we will never go through assimilation in the days ahead.
Yeah, for me, I definitely interact with the traditions of the House of Israel. I mean, if you look at my library behind me, I hardly have Christian works, right? I have the Mikrot Gedolot in Hebrew. I have the Mishnah Torah. I think these things are important things to interact with as we begin to approach the God of Israel and say, how do we operate in a Judaism that is authentic? We must interact with the traditions of the House of Israel. You can't just start with a blank slate. There is no blank slate.
So that is the beautiful thing about the Hanukkah. Hanukkah make a distinction, you see, and I know I wanted to talk about this for a little bit. There is a beautiful set of books called in Hebrew Michtav Me'Eliyahu, written by Rabbi Dessler. And he is writing something very interesting, and we'll look at that in a minute. He said that most of the prophets, they are talking about prophecy kind of in a near term. They're talking about prophecy, but they hardly ever talk about the Olam Abba, the world to come. If you look in the Tanakh as a whole, there is hardly ever a discussion of the Olam Abba. But you see, when Hanukkah has become so unique and so special for us, there is a conversation. Truly, Hanukkah is the one festival when we are focusing in the Olam Abba. And this is something we all have to understand.
So everyone knows Olam Haba is the world to come, just so people know, in case anyone doesn't know the world to come.
Exactly. So for us, here is the difference. You say, well, I have the Midrashim, I have this. For us, the words of Paul have to come a reality. He said, we are not looking here for a physical city, but we are looking for a city to come. That is the difference. Yeah. The same books I have in my library, if I go to any Orthodox rabbi, he will have the same books. The difference is what I am looking for.
Amen.
I am looking.
Amen. Hold on. I got to give you this. Hold up. Got to give you the air horn for it, man. Hold up.
I like that.
You got to do that, man, because you're kicking in the door, man. Breaking the glass, getting the party started. Let's go.
So it's not about the what, why. It is about what am I looking for.
Same.
I am looking for the Mashiach. So look, we give you in this publication. This is the first time, in Messianic Judaism, we hardly ever talk about halacha. Very, very rarely. So Hanukkah and Light of Mashiach have a lot of halachot. Learn how to do it right, but it does not replace the kavanah, which is the intention of your heart. So when you stand and you light it, I want you to read the Midrash so you understand what you're really doing. And what you are really doing is you are ushering the fullness. So it's not a surprise, by the way, just as a teaser. that Paul speaks in Romans 11 about an olive tree and an olive branches. Think about where do we get the menorah? The light, we get it from an olive branches. There is a beautiful connection here that we have to explore here, both for the natural branch and for the grafted in branch, which, by the way, it's not a surprise that Zechariah chapter 4, and I know we're going to look at that here in a few minutes, talk about two olive branches. Well, what are those two olive branches? What's the connection to Hanukkah? You see?
So if you're watching, ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere, because we're going to dip into a little nice shiur from Rabbi Shapira, okay? So we're leading up to something, so don't go anywhere. Don't tune off, all right? Keep hanging out with us. Please, Rabbi Shapira, continue.
Yeah, so I want to talk about this for a second, just so everybody find the balance. When we light the Hanukkiah, this is a little dvar halacha, and then we're going to go get into the shiur, and I hope everybody go and get Hanukkah and the Light of Mashiach. But there's this mitzvah that is actually, that when you light, everybody know that you're supposed to put the Hanukkiah right at your window or somewhere that it can be seen. But what about the mitzvah that when you light the Hanukkiah, you should be on one side? Imagine your door is here. That's mean the entry for your house. And right here is your window. Where should you be? You should be right between your door and the Hanukkiah. In essence, you have your door entry and you have your Hanukkiah, and the person who lights it should be right in the middle, in between your entry and the Hanukkiah. And why is the reason? The question is why? Why is it so important? Why is it so significant? The answer is this. The door, remember, a mezuzah is tilted toward your house. That's your inward. That is what's covering your house. The light of the Shekhinah is covering you. But there is another light, and this is a light that the rabbi says that have to go outwardly. So we have to find the balance between let our light shine before men that they see the good deeds, then the light of the Torah. And another explanation given by Chazal, which I found absolutely fascinating, they said the mezuzah on one side is covering you, and in the other side you have the light of the Hanukkiah, which represent the Shekinah, the spirit of the menorah, and the Torah working together. We call it the spirit and the law that are working together. What a beautiful explanation. And they say that you and I are like a dreidel. Your house become a Bet HaMikdash. Each house that lights the Hanukkiah is like a Bet HaMikdash. So for us, I think it's really important to find the balance between, just in general, between the outwardly and also the inwardly, so that we can work in a lot of balance between the Torah, the spirit, and the law at the same time. So that's really what I want to talk about today, and to give a very simple introduction of one of the shiurim. So we see how the lighting, how is it connecting even to coming of the Messiah?
Yeah,
So
that's beautiful.
I think it's a good segue.
Yeah, let's get right into it. But I just want to say this one thing, which is really interesting. Thank you so much, Yeshai Bootler, for that super chat. We do appreciate you. God bless you, brother. He says, happy Hanukkah and blessing to you both. He says, it's great to see Rabbi Shapira on the show. So big shout out to you, Yeshai Bootler. I do want to say this one thing. One of the biggest questions you get, people in the church world that are coming into the Messiah movement, the Holy Spirit is moving and bringing them to participate in the traditions of the house of Israel. And sometimes it's very hard for them to find that connection. And if we went up to someone in the church and says, look, when you celebrate Hanukkah, when you are lighting that up, you are bringing that light into that place, and you're saying, look, my light must shine. The light that Messiah has planted inside of me, I am allowing that light to shine in front of other people, that I'm bringing that light forward. And so a person who is from the church can look at this and see this and say, you know what? That is powerful. This is what Messiah has called me to do. And in Hanukkah, like when we don tefillin, when we put on yarmulkes, kippot, what we are doing is we are saying, I'm actually physically doing the thing which correlates to my inward reality. It's not just an outward thing or inward thing. It's outward and inward together that allows me to be faithful to the things that the Lord God is calling me to through Messiah Yeshua. Would you agree, Rabbi Shapira?
Yeah, that's why the mezuzah have to be to your right and the menorah have to be to the left. The menorah is filled with the shemen, the oil, the spirit. Mezuzah represent the Torah. The Torah and the spirit have to be working together in this. And that's one of the beautiful things about Hanukkah. You know, you don't have to light Hanukkiah with oil, but we call it in Hebrew, mehadrin lemehadrin, meaning that it is beautifying the mitzvah when you have the abundance of the oil, the abundance of the spirit, and understand that what we are lighting here, we are lighting two things in Hanukkah. And I want to talk about this in this brief shiur. We'll see if we have time to finish it within an hour. It might be a little bit a challenge, but I want to start with this very important quote that is given to us in one of the very important midrashic books. I want to put your mind at ease that the Messiah is in the middle of Hanukkah. It says Mashiach had 8 names: Inon, Tzemach, Mashiach, Pele, El Gibor, Aviad, Sar Shalom. Now look at the Hanukkiah before you. You notice that they have 8 kanim, 8 branches. We know this tradition because even as a kid, growing up in a Sephardic home, we said every night. We said first night Pele, we said the second night Yoetz, we said the third night El, and the fourth night Gibor, fifth night we say Avi, and the next night we say Ad, the seventh we say Sar, and the eighth we say Shalom. I didn't know it have anything to do with the Mashiach. It's just that my grandfather held the shamash. He said, tonight you say Pele, tomorrow you say Yoetz. And we're seeing it here, which is really, really interesting in the context of those things. So we want to find what is called the concealed light inside the story of Hanukkah. Now, in one of the midrashim, it's saying, and I want to touch on something hyper sensitive. But in a commentary to Hanukkah, we read the following. If you don't mind going to the next slide, it says the following. It says, the tree of Yosef and the tree of Yehuda will become one tree. This is the light of the Mashiach in context of Hanukkah. Adonai, our justice, will be his name. The king to whom peace belongs. Again, why? Because he's called Sar Shalom. He's Adonai, but it's also going to be called the Mashiach. Now, notice that there is a mention here of 2 trees, the tree of Yosef and the tree of Yehuda. I want to explain to you what it's mean in the context that we all of understanding. Before we run around, we think that this is some sort of Ephraimite lost tribes and get all excited about that. That's not what it's mean in Jewish context. Of course, there's a beautiful prophecy in Ezekiel chapter 37 about the 2 branches that becoming one. And he says that those trees, it's used the word chavru. What you heard the word chavru, you heard the word chavura, chaver, chibur. They will join one another and they will become one. The question is, who are the 2 that will become one? Yosef, in rabbinic languages, represent the Messiah, son of Joseph, while Yehuda represent the Mashiach, son of David. So I want us to make a real switch in our mind. When we hear the tree of Yosef, we're talking here about Mashiach, son of Yosef, and when we're talking about Yehuda, we're talking about Mashiach ben David. And this is the commentary given in the context of Hanukkah. And the question that we want to answer with you today is how those 2 are going to be lighting it to join each other in the context of Hanukkah, okay? So Hanukkah has to do with Ben Yosef, Mashiach ben Yosef, and Mashiach ben David becoming one. Or as we call it, one new humanity, the oneness of remnant from Judaism and a remnant from those who follow the Messiah becoming one. How is that going to come? And this is the exact, almost mystical, I hate to use the word mystical, but the mystical...
Like a spiritual.
Yeah, very spiritual. Yeah, I know people don't like the word mystical. Spiritual is a better word for us to think. So let's try to understand it. So there are a couple of questions we need to ask ourselves. What is the menorah represent? What is the Hanukkiah represent? What is the relationship between menorah and Hanukkiah? Menorah have 7 branches. Hanukkiah have 8 branches to it. So let's try to understand this together. And here it's what it says in Michtav Me'Eliyahu on Hanukkah. This is a very important halachic Jewish discussion. Go to the next slide. It says the following. It says the spiritual world that is known as the Olam Haba, I kind of discussed that, is not directly accessible to us in this world. The Maharal of Prague, very important commentator, tell us that the Olam Haba could not be described in the Torah because the Torah is a prophecy, and prophecy can intimate only those things who are directly accessible to human experience. However, the Olam Haba can be appreciated by the intellect. Therefore, the rabbis who approach Torah through intellect and not through prophecy were able to describe to us some aspect of the world to come. Now, I want us to make the big shift here today. Hanukkah is to deal with the world to come. The idea of the light, Nehorah, the Mashiach, it's all the world to come. Everything about the Hanukkah is about the world to come. And by the way, I'm not going to give you the entire book away, but if you read the book, one of the greatest miracles that Yeshua has done around his appearance took place in Hanukkah. In a very specific place for the story of Hanukkah for a purpose. And I wanted to read this chapter about the road to Emmaus, specifically in the book, and understand why did Yeshua reveal himself into the world.
That was a very good chapter too. I want people to know that, even though the book is rich with details and halachic norms and minhagim, which are customs, I was able to purchase the book on Friday in the afternoon, and I was able to be done with it by Saturday night. So I was able to listen to it. And remember, I'm still a rabbi. I'm leading services. We're having oneg. I'm doing stuff throughout the day. And as I'm making my way around, I'm doing things, I was able to listen to the book within a day. So it is easy to get through, but it is still very, very rich, but it is accessible to the normal person, right? So I do recommend go out there, go get it, and learn from it. Please, Rabbi Shapira, continue.
So I want us to make a distinction for a second. There's a Hanukkiah that have 8 branches and menorah that have 7 branches. And there's a deep connection between them that you're going to find in the book of Micah. I'm just going to give you a hint to go there and you will find it. In Micah chapter 5, we'll look at that maybe if we have time here in just a minute. But very, very important, there's a reference both to the Hanukkiah and to the menorah. Now, before we continue, if this is true, what Rabbi Dessler is telling us here, we need to ask ourselves the question, who or what the candles represent on our Hanukkiah or the menorah? That's question number 1. Question number 2 that we have to ask ourselves, how did the Hanukkiah and the menorah is being lit? Well, let's look for a moment in history. Okay, let's understand from historical point. Everybody say, well, the miracle was that they found one flask. We know the story. That was the seal of the high priest, and they took it, and it's lasted for 8 days. Everybody need to understand why it's a big deal. Why didn't they went to the local 7-Eleven and just got another flask of oil? That is the question that have to be asked. The flask had to be twice a day. They have to replenish the menorah in the temple twice a day, and they had one light that is called the Ner Tamid, that is everlasting light. Now, check this out. This is very important. How many grams were in this giant flask? This is very important that they have to fill the seven branch menorah. 172. 172 is a very important number in Judaism. If you count the 10 commandments from the very first word to the very last word, you find that there are 172 words in the 10 commandments. In essence, as long as the Torah is burning in the heart of Israel, as long as the menorah is lighted, nothing is going to harm Israel. They are untouchable. Now,
It's amazing.
107, it is truly amazing, because 172 represent, as long as this is lit, remember the story of Esau and Yaakov. Yaakov grabbed the heel of Esau in the story. Well, what is the word heel in Hebrew? 172. It's equivalent to the number 172. In essence, if the menorah stop lit, Esau is the one who get the spirit of Esau, is the one who get the strong of Israel. You understand?
Yeah.
All of the things about the menorah is really about the spiritual battle. Now, who is the one who gave the tip for this to the Greek? Read it. It's in the book of Maccabees. It's the Jews. Isn't it interesting? It was the Jews who assimilated, who gave the hint to the Greek and says to him, listen, don't battle them. Just go and destroy their light, destroy all those things, and then you win the battle. Because the battle you're fighting against their God. So there is a spiritual battle that is taking place here, and the battle is for the Torah. Everybody have to understand. The battle is here for the Torah. So the question have to be asked, not just what is the menorah represent, but what is the nature of the oil? So how did they produce oil? Think about this for a second. How did they produce 172 grams for one flask? They could not take any oil. They have to take one batch of oil, run it through this mill, the oil floating above the water, and they're allowed to take only 3 drops. Only 3 drops of oil. The next batch is coming, and they can take only 3 drops of oil. Can you imagine what it will take like to fill 172 grams with 3 oils drops a batch? Those were the purest and the purest. And here is what Chazal says: God forbid if they put any other oil into this menorah, the temple would have been burned down, and it would be the end of the Jewish people. Think about this for a second. When we are talking about menorah, and if this entire thing, the light, is called the concealed light, the light of the Mashiach, if we put the wrong oil, meaning we dress the menorah in a different way, in a wrong way, we can cause a disaster, and absolutely a disaster rather to do that. And I think that's something that we really need to historically look at that and reflect tonight. That we as Christians or Messianic, we really dressed Yeshua with the wrong oil for the last 2,000 years. That is something that it's really impacting me very, very much. Now, the question should...
I just want to say this. If somebody's from the church, right, and they might say, you know what, I don't get the reason why the Jewish people will be seeking for the pure soil. It is because it is ingrained within the cultural memory of the Jewish people. It's ingrained within the Torah that the Lord gets the best of the best. If I told you in your church and I stood there on Sunday morning, I said, the Lord desires the best, you would say, give him the best. Give the Lord the best. Yes, Lord, take all of me. Within the history and the heritage of the Jewish people, when they presented to the Lord this oil, it had to be the best of the best, just the same way with all the sacrifices. Absolutely. And this is what we want to drive home, where there's not a disconnect here from what you're reading in your new covenant or what you're reading in the Hebrew Bible, that the Lord desires the best. And this is what Rabbi Shapira is presenting us with these 3 drops, the best for the Lord.
And not only that, if they don't give the best of the best, they're going under the bondage of the exile.
Yeah.
This is very interesting.
And this is all over the Torah. This is not new. This is all over the Torah.
And a matter of fact, Hanukkah, one of the things I talk about in the publication, we don't have time to talk about it today, is already prophesied in Genesis chapter 1. The kingdom of Greece is already in Genesis chapter 1. Yeah. We know that already. We see that. Now, the question needs to be asked today, if this menorah is representing, this light is a concealed light, meaning it's a light that has to be lit. Let me define for you a concealed light. This is very important. It's a light to be lit, but it has to be lit in a specific way the question that we have to ask ourselves, how are we to light it properly? And because of that, we have to go to the scripture to see a reference to this and to see how our rabbis understood it. Now, remember, the prophet Zechariah, so I just want to say one thing before we jump to that, actually, before I forget. Yeah. So when Yeshua go in the book of Yochanan, and the author is telling us, well, it's Hanukkah in Yerushalayim. Why is he telling us this? People say, well, he didn't celebrate Hanukkah. Of course he celebrated Hanukkah. Let me explain to you why he is in Yerushalayim. There is this tradition that I speak about, and we read it well before Yeshua time. I mean, 200 years before Yeshua time, that call in Aramaic, Pirsumei de Nisa, meaning the publication of the miracle. Every year in Hanukkah, what they have done, they stood up. Remember, Hanukkah took place, 135 BC. So it's way, way before that. From this year, it's a spiritual, Hanukkah is a spiritual victory. It's not a military victory. Everybody need to understand that. Mm-hmm. The spiritual victory was celebrated in such a way. Everybody come to Yerushalayim. Everybody seeing this Hanukkiah being lit up, and everybody coming there to discuss the greatness of God. What do you think Yeshua is doing?
It's publishing it so it can be seen.
Exactly. That is exactly what it is. And not just publishing it, it's magnifying it. Mm-hmm. In many ways, it's magnification. So one of the things, even halacha today, that I talk about is, and I want you to follow this, 30 minutes. Sometimes what do? We light the Hanukkiah, and then we all run to eat latkes, right? That's what we usually do. Don't do that. Halakha teaches us that when you light the candle for 30 minutes, you are to do nothing except to praise God. That's why we have the Hallel service. We praise God for a minimum of 30 minutes before we go, and we look upon the light. It is important for us to do it, so we will fulfill the mitzvah of the Pilsumei, Anes, Anisa. Awesome. So we do this, okay? So this is very important. Yeshua is there. He understands all of these things because, again, he's part of the culture. Now, how did our people understood the connection between the Geulah to Hanukkah? I want to take you for a moment to the book of Zechariah, chapter 4, a verse that you're familiar with as a context. Zerubbabel is called back to Jerusalem to establish the walls of Jerusalem, to preparing for the Bet HaMikdash, and we read in Zechariah chapter 4, verse 1, if you don't mind going to the next verse. Actually, I have it in my next slide, I believe.
Oh, beautiful.
I have it in my next slide. Here you go. וישב המלאך הדובר בי ויעירני, כאיש אשר יאור משנתו. The angel who talked with me came back and mocked me as a man is wakened from sleep. This is Zechariah. He's getting a vision. Now, the word that I want you to focus in on this text that does not appear once, but appear other twice, is the same root, is the word Ya'er. Ya'ireni and Ya'or. Now, if you go to the next slide, I want you to understand what this means. In the English, it reads that he woke him up, that the angel woke him up. But in Hebrew, when you see the word Ya'er, or you see the word E'ara, it's not speaking about a physical awakening. It's talking about a spiritual enlightenment, a spiritual awakening. He is having, it's like he's saying, I have had a revelation. When you see itorerut, when you see this word itorerut, say, I had a spiritual awakening from the Lord. And what is this spiritual awakening of the Lord? The spiritual awakening of the Lord has to do with what he's about to show him. He is about to show him the menorah. So we're going to deal first with the menorah, and then we're going to connect it to the Hanukkiah, because we have to understand the connection between the menorah and the Hanukkiah. So listen to the next verse. Go to the next verse. He had a spiritual awakening. ויאמר אליי, מה אתה רואה? ויאמר, ראיתי, והנה מנורת זהב, כולה גגולה על ראשה. Now, the question that you have to ask, he says, what do you see? And he answered, I see a menorah of gold with a bowl above it. The question that everybody have to ask himself, what the menorah represent? What is the representation of the menorah? Now, look at this word here in Hebrew. Is the word bowl above it. He saw menorah, zahav, gold, all of it, right? Now look at this word in Hebrew, all of it. What word do you see? Chaf, lamed, hey. Remove the nikud from the chaf, lamed, hey. What word do you get? This is a trick question. It's read kula, but if you remove the nikud, the rabbi said there is a linguistic clue. It's the Hebrew word kala. It's the same word as the word kala. The word kala, it's the mean bride. What is he seeing here through the Holy Spirit? He is seeing a picture of the bride. The menorah, beloved, is a picture of the bride. Everybody needs to understand that, because we have to understand what is this menorah, what is the Hanukkiah is all about. So
yeah, let me say it in other words real quick, because I think this is good stuff, okay? So one of the ways that Judaism has read scripture, remember the vowel points that you see that Rabbi Shapira is referring to as the nukud, they come in later. They're put in by the Masoretes, and it's part of the tradition of how it was read. But when you look at a scroll, there would not have been vowel points, the dots that you are seeing. So when it talks about menorah zahav kula, if you remove the vowel points here, you have the consonants, right? The kaf, the lamed, the hey. And now when you're reading this, you can easily read this without these points as kala. And if you're in the church, and if I said that you are the bride of God, you would say, yes, we are the bride of Mashiach. We're the bride of Messiah. Yes, you would know that. And so what Rabbi Shapira is sharing with us, that deeply embedded within the traditions of the house of Israel, as we look at Hanukkah and the celebration of that light, even within the reading of the passages within the Tanakh, it points to a bride that the light points to that stems out of the menorah, that the menorah is illuminating the Kala, the bride.
Isn't that amazing? So another way to read it, if you want to do it like this, I see a menorah dash the bride. That would be the way one could read it, which is unbelievable. The first time I saw that, my jaw nearly dropped. So we're starting to uncover a great mystery here today. What is the menorah represent? And we still have to answer the question, what are the 7 branches representing as well? Where we are going to get to there. So as you see, there are 7 pipes on their head. So go to the next slide, and we have to ask the question, well, what is the menorah? If you don't mind going to one more slide forward, what is the menorah represent? Well, the menorah had 7 branches. That should be a pretty good clue to everybody about that. And here's what our rabbis tell us. Next slide. They say, the 7-branch menorah has a name. Now you see how the Ramez is connected. And this is found in Yalkut Shimoni. I believe Ramez 590. I could be wrong, but you can see that I give the reference in the Hanukkah and the Light of Messiah. The 7-branch menorah representing Israel, as it is stated, and I believe it's quoting from Shir Hashirim, Song of Song 4:7. Every part of you is beautiful. Remember something, Zerubbabel is seeing here not just prophecy, he's seeing the Olam Haba. He is seeing the Bet HaMikdash in the time of Mashiach. And what he's seeing Israel being beautiful. Israel is being in fullness. Israel glowing. He's seeing Israel for what Israel is going to be in the future. Anybody who thinks that Israel is going to vanish, well, no. The Olam Haba, Israel is going to be beautiful. Joseph, the Israel says, cite your sources. Joseph, all the sources, everything meticulously documented in Hanukkah in the Light of Mashiach. I believe that this is coming straight from Yalkut Shimoni, Remez 590, I believe so. But I wrote it. I don't remember everything exactly from memory, but look, it's in the Yalkut Shimoni, and we translated word for word from the Hebrew for you. So it's everything I'm teaching you today is in the Hanukkah and the Light of Mashiach with all the references. Okay, the 7 branch menorah. This is important because remember what we said a moment ago, that according to just the literal word, it can read kula, can read the kala, the bride, and the menorah is called Israel. What is the implication, Rabbi? What is the implication? That the bride is Israel. The bride is none other than the Israel. This is the implication. But as always with the rabbis of Israel, there is davar acher. There is always another interpretation. So if the menorah represents Israel, what's the 7 branches represent? And here the rabbis give us the answer for that. Next slide. And they tell us that the 7 branches, or the lighting of this Hanukkiah, go to the next slide, represent what? The merit. This is the merit of the Shabbat, which Israel keep in every 7 days, solid 7 and 7. The 7 branches represent the Shabbat. The Shabbat represent the Torah. It represent Israel being beautiful because they keep the Torah. They keep the Shabbat. They live according to the Torah, and everybody need to understand when Mashiach comes, Israel will live according to the Torah, and that's why it says that it's a picture of a bride. And now we see the connection to the book of Mishlei, Proverbs, that says the following. Next slide. He said, Proverbs.
And just really quick, I don't think Joseph Israel was talking to you. I think he's having his own machloket with somebody in the chat. But I do want to share. But I do want to share with people. This is just I just opened up the Kindle Cloud Reader. If you look, all the cross references are here. The font is really nice. So if you do want to look up the sources, people might be questioning. I want to know the sources. Get the book. I put the link to the book in the description. So go there, check it out. But as you can see, everything is cited and the sources are there, so you can look up the text. So yeah, I really believe that everything should be meticulously documented, and thank you. And if anybody has a question, feel free to reach out to me, because everything comes from the primary, from the Hebrew. We don't go to secondary resources. Yep. It says wisdom has built her house. She has honed hers, what? 7 pillars. Yep. This is the Var Nevuah. It's talking about a picture of the Olam Haba where Israel is in its fullness. Israel is observing the Torah, and Israel is with Mashiach. Yep. Now, how do we know that is referred to the Torah? Here we have to rely for a moment on Yehuda the Nasi. And those who do not know who Yehuda the Nasi is, Yehuda the Nasi is the canonizer of the Mishnah. He is the one to kind of put the Mishnah together, which later on led to the addition of the Gemara upon it, to the what we call today the Talmud. Listen to what he said about those 7 branches. It represent Israel, it is represent the bride, it represent the Torah, and here one more interpretation of this, and it represent the house. By the way, 7 pillars represent the house. This is the picture, Rabbi Eduardo, of the ecclesia. What we are seeing here is the of what Rabbi Cook is calling the Knesset Israel, the house of Israel, which still led the question, who is the one who have the eligibility to be part of the house of Israel? We're going to get there in a moment, because the question, what qualify one to being part of the house of Israel? So we'll get there in 1 second. But listen real quick to Rabbi Yehuda Anasi and what he says on that next slide, please. He says this. These are the 7. How do we know that those are seven books in the Torah? It's a long discussion in one of the tractate why he believed that there are 7, not 5. He said, according to whose opinion? It is according to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, as we count there 7 books of the Torah: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, and Number, until and when the ark would travel. The portion of when the ark would travel, and is considered its own book, the remainder of Numbers and Deuteronomy. If you know anything, there are 2 inverted noons in Numbers chapter 30 when the ark would travel. That's a book on its own. So he's dividing the book of Numbers into 3 different books. This is a very interesting and a very well-known Jewish interpretation, which we're not going to get into now. But the thing I want to stress to you, that the 7 branches
representing the Torah, the fullness of Israel through the Torah. But it's not just that. It represents the 7 mitzvot. Look at the next slide, how it's concluded. It is also representing the 7 mitzvot, as it says in the Torah. Trumot, the offering, the tithing, sabbatical years, 50-year jubilees, circumcision, respect for the father and mother, and studying Torah that are equal. In essence, all of those branches represented different areas of Torah, from loving God to loving your neighbor as yourself. And it's interesting because in 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 11, it says there, how is the Messiah will come? He said, live your life in holiness and in godliness, and through this you will hasten the coming day of the Lord. This is 2 Peter 3, verse 11, I believe. Well, how do you hasten him? Through Torah. People ask the question, can we hasten the coming of the Lord? Of course we can hasten the day of the coming of the Lord. But the way we are doing it is through Torah. Now the question becomes, how do we attain the Torah? And that's where the second part of the verse is coming. If this represent, and of course we know that when Israel keep the Shabbat, if the 7 branches the Shabbat, when Israel keep the Shabbat or 2 Shabbatot together, Mashiach will come to the world. So the entire vision that Zerubbabel are seeing here is a vision of the Olam Haba, of the New Jerusalem coming down, and Israel in its fullness. How do we get there? And that's why the next verse is very important. Now we are going to connect Hanukkah to this menorah. And he says, and by it, and it's very interesting, it's used this, and by it, I'll talk about this in a second, there are 2 olive trees. On one on the right of the bowl and one to the left. The question that each and every one of us have to ask, what is representing by the right and to the left of the bowl? Why? This is very significant for us. And when we're talking about olive branches, it's immediately have a spiritual connection to each and every one of you, Mashiach. Why? Because the menorah was filled and the Hanukkiah was filled with olive oil. Look at what the rabbi is telling us about this. Next slide, please.
You got it.
The 2 olive branches on the menorah represent what? The 2 Messiah. One is anointed for war and one is anointed as a king of Israel.
Powerful.
Those 2 branches representing the Messiah.
Yep.
And the only way that the Geulah will come, meaning, remember my discussion about the good quality of oil that have to be in there, is if we get it from one of the Mashiachim, either Mashiach ben Yosef or Mashiach ben David, who are going to be converging into one.
Yeah.
There are 2 branches that represent 2 different people. Jews and a remnant from the nation, remnant from the Jews and remnant from the nation. And both of their oils have to go inside the menorah in order to light it up and to usher the Geulah.
So you're saying that we can't really have a bright Hanukkiah without the 2 coming together and forming that one new man?
Without Judaism and without the thing that is hidden inside Christianity, which is Mashiach ben Yosef. It's Mashiach ben Yosef and it is Mashiach ben David. Both of those oil drops need to go with that. What does that mean to us in practicality? Let me give you something practical. It's putting our faith in Ben Yosef today in expectation of coming of Ben David in the days to come, because the 2 are going to become one. If we put any other oil, if we say we put the oil of Ben Yosef, Yeshua Mashiach, but I reject Judaism,
Well, I'm rejecting Ben David. If I'm rejecting Ben David, I am rejecting the oil that is needing to go inside the menorah, because there are two, it's a collection of two oils that need to come together. And this is a problem. I don't want to get before the Chag into something negative, but it is a problem because a lot of people, they want the this Yeshua, but they reject Judaism. No, if you reject Judaism, you're rejecting one of the olive branches.
Yeah. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, too, rejecting Judaism doesn't mean that you might have some differences or disagreements about halakhic perspective. Disagreements in halakha is Judaism, right? The idea is rejecting Judaism wholesale, stam, just to push it off because it's Judaism. That is what is anti-Semitic.
Yeah, it's not an issue of look, Judaism doesn't agree with Judaism.
Yeah, agreed.
That's not the issue. What I am talking about is rejecting the system of Judaism. If we are to reveal a concealed light, we need the right oil. The key of Hanukkah is having the right stuff, the right oil, extracting those 3 drops. Is there good things in Christianity? You better believe it. There is something good in Christianity, but what we need to do is to extract from it those 3 drops of oil to the holy flask. Is there good things in Judaism? Oh my goodness, there are wonderful things in Judaism.
Amen.
We need to extract those oil and put those oils together. So look at the next slide. This is
air horn for you, my friend. That was good.
This is the synopsis. If there are 2 branches, and by the way, we see that there are 2 Messiah and there are 2 lights, what is the second light will represent? What is it to represent? And here I love to quote it. This is come from a book called Shem Shmuel. He says the following. He says, it appears that there are 2 sort of candles, Hanukkah and Shabbat. Here is the connection between those two lights, Hanukkah and Shabbat, which parallels the 2 messiahs. Let me stop there. This is not a missionary writing. This is some of the most respected Jewish minds. Shem Shmuel, look at this commentary. And he says, one branch is Messiah, son of Yosef or Eliyahu, then Messiah, son of David, who initially and soon in our days, Messiah ben Yosef will come to push the outer power and a way to purify the earth. Next slide, let me conclude this thought. The earth, by him, the word of Amalek will be, and after that, the prophet Eliyahu will come and make peace on earth, and he will return the house of the fathers to the son, and the house to the son of the fathers. There are 2 lights. The light of Hanukkah, 8, ילד יולד לנו, בן ניתן לנו, ויקרא שמו פלא, יועץ אל גיבורה ויעצת שלום, 8, Ben Yosef, and the menorah is Ben David. Ben Yosef is Hanukkah, and Ben David is the military victory. So when we are lighting Hanukkiah, we are actually praying for the menorah. You follow what I'm saying? Hanukkiah is the 8 names. It's Ben Yosef, which will lead us. What Shem Shmuel says, it will lead us. Explain to you what is being said here, because I noticed a few comments in the chat from Ariel, and he said, I will make a nation, the land, mountains, Israel, and he's talking about the 2 trees becoming one. The 2 trees, those 2 sticks that becoming 1 tree, is representing the light of the menorah and the light of Hanukkah. The light of Hanukkah representing Ben Yosef. The light of the menorah representing Ben David.
Powerful.
The notion that the anti-missionary is suggesting there is no such a thing as Ben Yosef is being debunked out of the water in Hanukkah. Hanukkah is all about Ben Yosef. In expectation of the Olam Abba to the Mashiach ben David. So when he's saying here that there are 2 lights, he's right, Shem Shmuel, 2 Messiah, Messiah ben Yosef and Eliyahu, and Messiah ben David. We have to understand what he's saying. He said that Mashiach ben Yosef will come to push the outer power and purify the earth. This is very important. What do we hear the anti-missionary says to us? Well, Yeshua did not fulfill any of the prophecies. Not in Isaiah 11, not in Isaiah chapter 2. He didn't have to fulfill, because he came as Ben Yosef, and the halacha of Ben Yosef, exactly, to give us the power to purify us from within. It's all what Ben Yosef has to do. All the wonderful prophecies that you read about are related to Ben David. And that, friends, is depending upon our ability to light Knesset Israel. Asher ben Yosef and Asher ben David, and put the light inside the menorah. These belong to each and every one of us. And that's what the heart of the Chag is all about.
Now, Shapira, I know you've got a lot to do tonight for the Chag. I've got a lot to do as well. We've got 10 minutes left, all right, to wrap this thing up. There's so much. And Shapira, you know, we can do another one too, and come back and scoop around, right? But ladies and gentlemen,
let's see if we can wrap it real quick.
Let's do it. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this and you missed the beginning, you missed a lot of nuggets, all right? So rewind that thing, come back, see it, save it for later, download it, and give myself and Shapira a like, all right? Rabbi Shapira, take it away.
So now we understand. In the prophet Zachariah, Zerubbabel sees the vision, and this vision is two branches. Those two branches represent the menorah, Ben David, Hanukkiah, Ben Yosef, and those two have to be converged to one. They are going to be converged to one. That's what Paul is talking about. So now the question becomes, what is the mitzvah for each and every one of us? ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו להדליק נר של חנוכה. The action of hadlaka is the most important thing that I want each and every one of us to think about it. Go to the next slide if you don't mind. Is the word להדליק. Next one. Ladlik, here we go. Ladlik. So the action of adlaka is the very heart of what God has for each and every one of you to do. And what is that meaning, kavanah, in kavanah shlema? Is that you are committed to remove the klipot this year from Ben Yosef. So the wonderful mitzvah tonight, when you light, say the word Pele on the first night. Ask Hashem for miraculous itorerut, like in Zerubbabel case, to be able to shed the klipot from Ben Yosef and put it. And also pray for the Jewish people, because they're on the other side of the Hanukkiah, okay? They're on the other side, to be able to do the same thing, because they're needing, and that's something very important, Rabbi Eduardo. People think God is done with Jewish people who reject Yeshua. I flat out do not believe it, not one bit, because their drop of the oil are equally and critically are important, and we need to pray for that. We are dependent upon them, and they are dependent upon us, and this is something that we all need to understand in Hanukkah. If you don't mind, I don't know if I put it in the last slide. If you don't mind going to the next slide, go back. Here you go. Listen to what I wrote. This is something that I wrote in connection to what Rabbi Kook, the very first Ashkenazi rabbi of the state of Israel, said. The act of lighting and igniting the eternal light, which is eternal light, is the ultimate light of the Knesset Israel that will reconcile Ben Yosef Christianity to Ben David Judaism. Who is the one who is igniting the light? It is you and I. Let me ask you a question. Wasn't Aaron the high priest called Kohen Mashiach? Didn't he carry the Choshen in Gematria 358? Mashiach? Who is the one who make the Choshen? The people make the Choshen. We always think about the Mashiach who is lighting us. He is the servant of the Lord. In one way, it's correct. But allow me to give you another interpretation. He is the oil, and the remnant is the one who is lifting up the entire house of Israel to become lit. And when we become lit, then the Geulah will come. Last slide from the Ramchal. And I think this is something we need to consider. Those 8 names, we already proven. Don't listen to the anti-missionary. They are lying to you. They're talking about Messiah. I just prove it to you. But listen to what the Ramchal says. The world child born to us, that's finding Otzarot Ramchal. Speak of who? Mashiach ben Yosef. Why 8? Hanukkiah. As it's stated about him, the child in whom I delight, Jeremiah 31:20. He is called Yeled, child, during the time that he is separated from the menorah, from the ecclesia of Israel. During the time that's Galut, he's called a child, which is very negative way. But in the state of conception, according to the Sod, since he's yet not revealed to Israel. During this time of the exile, the Messiah is within the klipot. But it's also called, if I can add, a son has been given to us. When he is a son, he is in his fullness. But his name will be called. What is the application? The child and the son will have one name. Why? Because they are one in the same. Ben Yosef and Ben David. The Shabbat, the menorah, and the Hanukkiah will converge. Judaism and Christianity will converge. The word lanu referred to Israel and not to the nation. Just as it says, it's called the bride. Mashiach ben Yosef will be dressed in might to take revenge upon the nations of the world.
Powerful.
Hanukkah is an invitation, beloved. There's so many mitzvot, so many halachot about inviting goyim to the house during Hanukkah. I think this is a very good segue to conclude the program and say to everybody, if you are contributing for the revelation of Ben Yosef or Ben David to become one, or in other words, for Judaism and Christianity, the remnants to converge into one, you are part of this menorah. So when you light the menorah this year, the Hanukkiah, don't just remember Ben Yosef. Have expectation for the coming of Ben David, for the time that Israel, as it says, will be without blemish. And may this day come speedily upon us, upon you, upon your community, Rabbi Eduardo, and upon all of Israel, because there's a great secret in this. I know that we cover a lot in hour and a half.
We covered a lot.
And we went rather quickly, but I hope that was just a taste of good things for you. And know that if there is a branch to the right, God didn't make a mistake with you. Rejoice in the branch you are to the right. You don't need to become the branch to the left. You just need to converge those two to become one. And this is, to me, the heart of what God wants to do during this season of Hanukkah.
Beautiful.
And I wish everybody Chag Sameach, of course.
Chag Sameach to you, Rabbi Shapira. Rabbi Shapira, thank you so much for this awesome shiur. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, go check out his website. Go check out the new book which came out. You can see him there with that. And it was an awesome, awesome shiur. Rabbi Shapira, blessings in you and your ministry. And may the Lord use you, continue to use you mightily for the kingdom. And may God be magnified in what you do. Rabbi Shapira, thank you so much for coming out and spending time with us. And may your family have a great, great Chag Sameach. And may the light of Mashiach shine brightly from you and what you put your hands to, sir.
Amen. Al Kol Israel. Toda Rabba.